Few days before the Fed just cut their rates like 50 basis point, the whole internet just goes wild. Even in China, you see headline like your money is at risk or prepare for the financial chaos. But here's the thing, if you're not in America or you live outside of the United States, does the Fed's decision actually affect you? Today, I'm gonna bring down the truth. The first thing first, if you're not in America or you live outside of the United States, you shouldn't be panicking every time Fed just made some decisions, okay? Yeah, sure, the Fed decision gonna affect the global economy, but here's the thing, but for most people who live outside of the United States, especially those who don't hold like significant dollar-based assets, the direct impact for you is minimal. And I have to show you a very sad story. A friend of mine, don't get me wrong, he and I, we know each other for a really long time, and he's a really successful businessman in China. And early this year, he just called me. It's like, I heard about news. The dollar-based financial products now can pay you 5% per year. So is there anything I can do about it? So I was trying to convince him there's not much he can do about it. And the hiking circle is about to end. So I'm like, come on, unless your kids want to go to study abroad, except that you should do nothing about it. But he was like, come on, 5% is really tempting. I'm like, all right, my advice is still don't do nothing about it. He has been really successful in his business for at least like 20 years. He even got some loans because it's only 3%. He think about why not I just borrow money at like a 3% rate and I can make like 5%. So you might think 3% and 5%, nothing wrong with that, right? But bang, guess what? The shit happens. Because back to the days, the RMB and the US dollar exchange rate was 7.25, but now it's around 7. He lost like 3% right away. So what I'm trying to say is all those media want to make you feel anxious. They try to push you their product. So guys, keep that in mind. Oh yes, don't get me wrong, in some industry, you definitely can feel the ripple effect. But as an everyday person who lives in China, Japan, or some European countries, you don't have to lose sleep over the news. The question number 2 is who should be concerned? For those who live in states where your assets is heavily invested in US dollars like stocks, real estates, or even loans, those assets are really tied to US economy, then you should keep an eye on it. The lower rate, which means cheap borrow rates, such as for mortgages, or it might drive like stock volatilities. So for the homeowners, maybe the chance to refinance your mortgage at lower rates. So for the investors and the traders, I'm gonna do another video about the Fed rate cuts actually gonna affect the stock market, especially the US stock market. Make sure you subscribe and leave your comments below. So number 3, let's back to the non-US residents, which is probably most of you watching this video right now. If your assets are in local currencies like Chinese yen, Indian rupees, Japanese yen, euros, the truth is probably there's not much direct impact over your daily lives. The Fed rate cuts don't directly affect your local currencies. So your savings, your loans, your mortgage, your daily expenses probably stay the same. In most countries, their central banks adjust their policies by their own economic conditions, not just because of Fed, like BOJ, they're doing a completely different thing. But if you are involved in your own country's export sectors, or the industry heavily tied to international trade, you might see some effects. The good or bad is really hard to tell. It's just like every coin has 2 sides. Because usually when Fed cut the rates, the US dollar is gonna weakening and your local currency gonna strengthen. For those countries who heavily rely on export goods to the States, a strong currency might hurt that industry because it's gonna make their goods more expensive. But for those whose mainly export to Europe or Japan, who knows? Probably more complex than what you think. So if you are mainly export to United States, yes, you are more vulnerable to those changes. And personally, I believe the country who get mostly affected other than United States could be Brazil. Because Brazil rely heavily on external capital flows and their currency is very sensitive to US dollars. And finally, let's talk about China. The China growth trajectory is largely independent on Fed's decisions. Period. The performance of Chinese assets like real estate, stocks, even bonds are not that sensitive to Fed's decisions. So in China, we have our own economy cycles. The asset class performance is heavily dependent on domestic policies, consumer behaviors, and local market conditions. So if you are investing in Chinese assets, the Fed's decision won't have direct impact on your returns. But wait a minute here. Our stock market is very different from US stock market. The market participants are very different. The volatility is very different. In next video, I'm gonna explain the major difference and how you can get benefits from Chinese A-share markets. Make sure to like and subscribe. The video probably coming next week. Alrighty, let's sum this up. If you are not American or you live outside of the United States and your wealth is mostly in your local currencies, you can rest easy. The Fed rate cuts won't shake your world. But if you got some dollar-based assets or involved in global trading industry, it's worth to keep eye on those changes. I hope this video just clears some of your questions. Make sure to like and subscribe. And don't forget to share this to your friends so they don't make a mistake like my friend did. In next video, I'm gonna dive deep on the A-share market and stay tuned.